Hi guys.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. Here we are having coffee
With
Susie. We are beyond excited that you're here.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
And guess what? A lot of people are beyond excited.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
We had
very
so
sweet.
many of you write in with questions. So, and Susie's looked over the questions and she's ready to answer them.
Yes.
Yes.
So we started a class. Susie was doing like a mom's kind of parenting class.
Parenting class.
And it's amazing.
Well, that's sweet.
Always came out of it being like, oh my God, I'm normal, I'm okay, everything's gonna be okay. We
Right.
always talk that we have like our Susie-isms.
It's all gonna be fine.
She's very good about Susie-isms.
Yes.
And now it's evolved to this.
To the book.
You basically took your class
Yeah, my class.
and put it in
The parenting
Above.
backpack.
truly.
And
Unbelievable.
we just said, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I too late with twin 14-year-olds and an 11-year-old?
No.
Keep
No.
talking.
No.
Hold on.
No. Any age is fine. So many of us, so my kiddos are in their 20s, well, 16, 20, and 22. And so many of my friends are like, oh, I'm past this.
Seriously?
16, 20, and
16,
22.
16,
You have
22.
adults.
I know. Well, yes. And so, so people my age don't seem to think that they can still use it. It's relational. It goes
Okay.
all the way through.
I love
adult
that.
children. Yeah, sure.
Just all y'all are wondering like why Susie's asking these questions. It's 'cause-
Answering these.
Answering these
Sorry.
Oh, I was
questions.
like asking,
Yeah.
answering.
Sorry.
She is a true expert.
Well,
expert.
so background is teaching.
Street cred.
Then I became a stay-at-home mom.
Street cred.
Street cred.
She's
Yeah.
got street cred.
Street cred. Went back to get my master's in counseling, became a mental health counselor for a short while, and that's when everything kind of changed because I realized I was working a ton with moms, and they didn't need a diagnosis. They needed parenting help. So I opened
Right.
up my parenting business, started doing the classes, started doing one-on-one consults, and then somehow landed as a school counselor here in Phoenix. And so I've kind of done a little bit of all of it. And so I finally took all the stuff that I started teaching back, I guess, around 2014, 2015, and got it into a book.
Love this.
It's amazing.
It's not about raising perfect children. It's about how we react to our imperfect ones.
Because no one's perfect.
So good.
No one's perfect. And I think the important piece with that is
How
it's
we
also,
react.
it's not about being the perfect parent. It's how we react to our imperfections. So I come to this from the standpoint, I'm a mom.
So
We
good.
all mess up. I know this stuff like the back of my hand. I still make mistakes. It's how do we react to ourselves when those mistakes happen, and how do we react to our kiddos when something happens, whether
Yes.
something happens to them
Yes.
or because of them.
So it's all about how we react.
It's
I'm
how we
a
react.
reactor.
And I will say, well, I don't
Certain
know a mom,
times I
I don't know a
am.
mom that's not. You
Yeah.
get better at it when you
Yeah.
start to learn this stuff. You definitely can get better at it. But it's our natural tendency. And with my book, it's a little bit different. Usually, when people are looking for a parenting book, they're trying to find a fix-it. You know, my
Yes.
child's struggling with lack of motivation, friends, anxiety, their behavior problem, all these different things. We have to back up the truck a little bit. So the first half of the book is all about the parent. It's all about understanding why you parent the way that you do, how our reactions basically matter. Because we do have research that says this is the best way to parent, but we don't always do it because of what I call, which is in the backpack, our rocks, right? Our worries, our insecurities, our fears. They weigh us down, and unless we acknowledge those and work through those, we're going to parent from them every single time.
Well, and our
that.
children's behavior is a reaction to our parenting.
Yes.
So we're seeing their behavior as they're not motivated, they're anxious or whatnot, but it is true that it could be they're reacting to something that we are doing.
I always say,
It's not them,
start,
it's us.
yeah, and start with the parenting.
It's not you, it's me. I like that.
Dang. Yeah. So you always start with yourself, start with the parenting piece to understand why you're reacting the way that you are, work through your rocks, and then you get to the other side of the things that we can do to help fix. So we empty our backpack of rocks, and then the next step is what goes in it to help, and that's the second half of the book. All the stuff that parents really want is the tools, like what do you need in that moment when you react to your child.
And so we feel like we're going crazy, but we don't need a diagnosis. We just need
You
parenting
just
help.
need some parenting.
Okay.
I love this.
So here we go. Let's answer some
Let's
questions.
do it.
Yeah. So you guys wrote in such amazing questions, and we have organized them into categories that Susie, sees all the time. And so we are going to start with consequences and boundaries topic, because you get a lot of that.
I do. Yeah, I feel like it's obviously in the book, kind of towards the end, but it's one that people want to hear about all the time.
Yeah.
When it comes to consequences, one of the things we do in our kind of either escalated anger or guilty parenting is we either take too much away or we give too much back. And so one of the things we hear all the time is
Yes.
give them natural consequences, and parents are like, well, what does that even mean? Okay, so when we talk about consequences, and I love the fact we're saying consequences, not punishments. We learn from consequences. They are the cause, it's cause and effect. You can have a good consequence, you can have a bad consequence. So I talk about the 4 things that we as parents are kind of in charge of when it comes to helping our children learn from their mistakes are respect, responsibility, health, and safety. I would say tattoo those 4 words on your arm.
Yes.
So I'll say them again.
Yeah.
It's respect, it's responsibility, it's health and safety. Almost everything falls under those 4 categories.
Yes.
So when your child makes a choice that is not being respectful, not being responsible, not being healthy, or not being safe, that's when we get to come in and set the boundary. Not the emotional strangulation, which I talk about in the book and I won't delve into right now, but we tend to emotionally strangle. We have to loosen our grip and give them boundaries. So we set those up ahead of time, and when they do make a mistake, we follow up with another one of my favorite sentences, which is, when you choose blank, you choose blank.
I'm sorry.
Gretchen
Taught me that.
I have to stop this really quickly. Hold on.
My desk. This
Oh my
is
gosh.
on my desk, like right here. Ding.
Is that from class
In a
million
purple
years
marker?
ago?
When setting rules, my job is to teach you respect, responsibility, health, safety. This is all love comes from love. When you choose blank, you choose. So when you choose not to brush your teeth, you chose not to have sweets, and that's health. I've had this.
How many years have you had that?
Well, if
A
it's
long
not
time.
brush your teeth, that was
Oh yeah,
a
that
long
was a long
time
time
ago.
ago. How funny. I'm sure it would change now.
10 years?
When you choose to not brush your teeth,
It is so
you
simple.
choose to not have sweets.
That's the thing.
Duh.
You make it so
I
simple.
need, I'm saying that tonight. Saying it tonight.
For anything. It can work for brushing teeth, it can work for teenagers.
anything. It
Yeah.
works for
So
anything.
like when you chose to go out drinking with your friends, you chose to stay home for the next weekend until we know you're going to be making better choices.
Yeah, it's
so
all
that
on
way,
them.
You're always
Because that's safety. You
It's
know,
safety.
that's safety. You-
Because what
Okay.
happens right now is we take the phone away for
The
everything.
devices,
We
the
get
device.
so angry that we
Yes.
take, you don't have your phone for a week.
That's
you don't
Yes.
have your
all I
phone
do
for
is
a
threaten
month.
the iPad
Yes.
goes away.
Well,
Yes.
so when you do that, a couple different things. One is you lose your consequence to give. It's gone. So you don't have that as a parent to hold on to anymore because you've
Okay.
already given away. You can't keep giving it away. If that
Okay.
makes sense. If we take it away forever, they never get to learn. So I like it, and this is not every situation. There are some situations this is not the case, but I like to, generally speaking, say, do the 24-hour redo. So for example, if a child is choosing, say they choose not to turn their homework in. Okay, hey buddy, I noticed that you didn't choose to turn your homework in. So here's the deal. If you're gonna choose not to turn your homework in, you're gonna choose not to have technology today until it's done. And you just do the 24-hour thing because then it's in their hands. So he can sit down or she can sit down and do their homework. And if they do, then they can have some technology time. You know, do your work, earn the privilege, earn the reward. Even though it's not a reward system, it's the same thing as adult
Right.
people.
Reality.
If we work, we choose
The
to
real
work.
world.
We choose to go on vacation.
But I think parents can tend to, maybe I'm wrong, jump to like, Christmas is over, everything is done, you are
Yeah.
grounded, like we're quick to say you've lost your phone this week.
Yeah.
And then what do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Then we buckle and we
Yeah.
lose all
So
of our
it's like,
credibility.
get a
So, and
little
then what-
more.
And then what happens, and I talk about this in the book, is the kids start to play a game of get it back.
Oh, it's the
It's
worst.
not
If I do-
internalizing
Yeah. How can I
the
get it back?
lesson. It's
What if
like,
I do
how can I
this?
get it back?
Yes.
Well, I can tell mom everything she wants to hear.
Yeah. Take out the
I can
trash.
do everything. I can do
Yeah.
more stuff. I can nag mom until she gives it back to me.
Yes.
I can sit and do absolutely nothing until I get it back. So in that moment, you put them into almost like, how do I protect myself mode to get my stuff back versus what do I need to do in order
What
to
did I
be
learn?
It's like you've been sitting in my house or something.
right? Elementary school is when they start pushing a little bit, and when they're disrespectful, it's kind of their way to try and well, there's lots of different things behind it, but trying to kind of grow their wings a little bit? How can I be independent from mom and dad? Well, sometimes that comes with a little bit of disrespect. Okay, so your child says something, you know, you're the worst mom ever, I hate you. Okay, and this is getting too much into this, but we validate first. I get it. I get that you don't like me right now. Okay, but if you are going to choose to say something to me that's disrespectful, I can't hear you. I need you to try again. The consequence in that is redirection. Try again. Now, let's say they continue to be disrespectful after that. That's when you say, hey, you know what? In this family, we choose to be respectful. And if you can't make that choice, then you are going to lose your privileges for the rest of the day. When the kids are little and they're escalating in anger, we talk about time ins. Okay, and that's a whole different thing. It's basically saying when a child is escalated and we say, you need to go to your room because you messed up, right? That's punishment and it's shame-based. Sometimes when they are escalated in anger, it's a secondary emotion. Something else is going on. So it doesn't mean we don't give them consequences for breaking an anger rule, but in those moments, they kind of need us a little bit more.
They're wanting attention.
I remember, because I have a 6-year-old little girl, and she can just escalate really quickly, and I used to put her in a room and like try to shut the door, and she would lose her mind and like pull everything off her dresser, like she'd go destructive. And so I think you told me, you're like, go in there with her and shut the door and just sit on the ground with her.
I can remember doing it with my own kids.
And I did that, and it helped so much. And I was like, look, we're gonna just hang out until you're calm. Like, it's okay, you just need to calm down. But me being in there with her took it away from a punishment and more of like we just need to like regroup.
I always say our kids need us the most when we like them the least. I mean, sometimes when our kids are escalated like that.
Susieism. So one of the things we definitely heard a lot about anxiety.
One of the biggest factors, and I think that this is super important to remember, and this is not saying, I don't want to make the correlation that if you're anxious, your child is going to be anxious, or your child's anxiety is coming from you. That's not always the case. But I do think it's important for all of us as adults to check ourselves as far as what we're doing with our anxiety. Our children feel the most secure when their mom and dad are secure. So let's talk about what that modeling looks like, no matter whether it's COVID or something else. Because yes, there's a fine line. We want to be the strong, secure people, but we also want to allow them, we don't want to be so strong and secure that we're not validating them. Okay, so in general, especially with all of this COVID stuff, or anything scary that's going on, I mean, interesting topics right now, because I have one chapter in here which is how fear affects parenting, and it's probably my favorite chapter in the book, because we are parenting during a time where there is crazy fear. Whether or not it's real is a whole different thing, but if you think about the 24/7 news, you think about technology, our fears behind it, our over-connectedness,
because we don't understand it
to our kids. I mean, constant contact with our kids, and these crazy expectations. So we're living during a time where it feels very fearful. Okay, so having said that, what do you do with it? 4 different things. One, the first thing.
Deep breath, Allison.
Shall we have a moment
Love
of namaste?
Okay.
So the first thing that they talk about in research is your 4 walls are super important. The world can be crazy and chaotic outside, but what does your home look like inside? Are you having family time? Are you having time just to hang out? What is the atmosphere in your home like? That's the number one thing, is they are going to feel secure inside. Okay, ultimately we want them to feel secure inside.
Yes.
Step 1.
That's actually going to end up being the last step, because we have to start with, well, it depends on how you look at it. So outside, so you have internal, you have your own walls within your own family, and then you have outside of that, right? Yeah. So depending on how you look at it, ultimately our goal is we want them to feel secure inside.
Which would lessen the anxiety.
Yes. Right. So we start with the walls of our home. The second piece, and this is in the book what I call the safety net. It's giving your kids a safe place to land when when anything happens, but when they are feeling insecure, worried, afraid, how do you react to it, right? If you are reacting from your own place of fear, of worry, of anxiety, of yelling, it's not going to help your kiddo. They need that place where they can feel heard, they feel seen, they feel listened to, we validate them. And another, you're going to say, a Susieism, sit in the ick, right?
Yep.
You've got to learn to sit in the ick.
Give an
Second.
example of sit in the ick.
So let's say that your kiddo, in this situation, oh my gosh, Mom, what if somebody that I love dies from COVID? I mean, that's a lot. When in the middle of it, we were dealing with a lot of it. It's saying to them, because what we want to do right away is, oh no, we're going to be okay. We're doing everything fine. We're going to be okay. They're feeling one way, we're showing them the opposite. So we've got to even the playing field and saying, you know, buddy, I get it. I know it's scary.
Now, what if it's not COVID related and it's anxiety based on, like, what if I don't do well on this exam?
Okay, so, oh my gosh, what if I don't do well and I'm going to do horrible?
And then I'm not going to get into some school, or who knows? They can
Right.
propel, like, it starts
So
with an exam,
think of
you
the
know?
mirror. You're mirroring back to them what they're feeling. Okay, that's what counselors do, right? I hear you. I hear you. I get that you don't think you're going to do well on this test. Talk to me about it. Where is that coming from? You're just taking a moment to understand their
Like,
story.
why?
And listen, the hardest thing to do is to sit in the ick with them when they've made a mistake. And when we validate somebody, it doesn't mean we agree with them. We can still validate them. I can disagree with your choice, but I can still validate the way that you're feeling. Like, that's where empathy comes from. The third piece then is reassurance. This is when, and oftentimes if you have a kiddo who is 6 or 7, sort of going into 8, you are in the heart of what I'm going to talk about right now. Kids at that age,
Like I missed it.
it's okay because you can still do it.
Okay.
The kids at that age go from black go black to white instantly because they used to be in the world of imaginary play, and all of a sudden they go into reality. Okay, so back in the day, you know, when they're in the imagination mode, it's, you know, in a land far, far away.
La La Land.
They turn 6 or 7, and all of a sudden they're scared to death of everything.
Yes.
It's like it's
The
real
dark,
now.
the this,
They
Everything.
realize you have
doesn't
an
matter.
alarm on your house.
Yeah.
Black
An
and white.
alarm.
They
Not
go
everybody's
right
good.
to black and
Yes.
white. Like, if this happened to your mom, this can happen to my mom.
Got it.
Okay, so we have to give them the gray. We have to give them the reassurance. So whether they're, so I'm saying that, so if you're in that 6 to 7 range, totally normal. If you're older than that, you still give them the reassurance. So it's saying, listen, yes, I know bad things happen and we don't have control over everything, but here is what we do have control over. And so depending on what they're scared of, if they're scared of the dark, right, or they're scared of the bad person coming in,
A burglar.
Boogeyman.
a burglar or something like that.
No.
It's saying, I know you're scared. I get that you're scared. I hear you. But here are the reasons that we're probably okay. Could bad things happen? Sure, but here is why we probably are okay. And then you go through your list of, you know, we have a lock on the door, we have an alarm, we have a phone by our bed that we can call the police officers. Reassurance. Okay, so
Got
that's
it.
number 3.
Okay.
And then number 4,
Dag-like.
and the last one is when we're feeling anxious, we tend to feel hopeless. So what can you do to help others who are maybe struggling with what you're scared of? Does that make sense? So if there's a big hurricane and people have died from it and you're scared of a hurricane, okay, what can we do to help the people who are going through it right now, right?
Oh.
We could do a lemonade stand to make money for them and give it to them. There's something about the helping side of it that also
Like
helps
for
with
like
it.
Ukraine, maybe. Like, oh my gosh,
Absolutely.
would someone ever come and bomb our house? Or talking
Yes.
about
Yeah.
what's happening
They
in
asked
Ukraine,
that,
and
yeah.
instead you try to help them support the people
Yes.
in what's happening in Ukraine.
So
love
exactly,
that.
I love all that. So I get that you're scared and think that there's a possibility because war is going on in Ukraine. I get that you're afraid that you think it could happen here, sitting in the ick. Then the second piece, let's talk about why it probably won't happen here. Then you give all your spiel on that. Last but not least, I know it feels helpless that this is going on over there and that feels icky inside. What can we do to help those people?
Love that.
Okay, those
Changes
so
it.
good.
It
Right,
changes
it flips
it.
Right.
So
It
that
puts
was
it
Gives them like
positive.
a little,
it gives
a
them
little power, a little
it,
control.
It empowers
Yes.
them, and that. But we talk then about the worry box, okay? And for littles, you literally make a worry box. Cut a hole in the top, and you say to your kiddo, "Hey, here's the deal. Mommy wants to talk to you about this, but I also know you have more control over this. I want you to write down or draw your pictures of what you're worried about, put it in the worry box, and you know what? We're going to take 10 to 15 minutes a day, and just the two of us are going to sit down, and we're going to talk about your worries." It lets them know they have more control over it.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work, and that's what I mean. You'll know if you do that and they're still anxious.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's probably time for a little extra help. With your older kids who are struggling with some anxiety, you can still do the worry box, but you're not actually, I mean, you could, but you're probably physically not going to make a worry box. It's trying to teach them about their thoughts. You have more control over this. Your thoughts are not you. That's a whole nother segment. But having a worry
In the
box
book.
within your head.
Yeah. So Laura, you had like a life-changing kind of talk with Susie about bullying.
I did. So we got some questions about bullying, and I know a few years ago I was experiencing something with my son that I perceived as bullying, and when I explained the situation to you, you told me that actually wasn't bullying at all. It was something different, and so I just loved what you had to say about bullying, and like you have a definition of bullying.
Yeah, and it's not my definition. It's actually kind of the legal definition of bullying. So we are overusing the word bullying in society today, and the problem is when it actually is bullying, we have to step in and help. Like, it's imperative.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, really quickly.
Yeah.
It says somebody is experiencing bullying, teachers involved, but it's still happening, and my daughter talks about this girl all the time, and then how to know when parents should get involved, even though the idea mortifies our children.
Right, okay, so the actual definition of bullying is aggressive behavior that happens over and over with a power differential. Okay, those are the three things. There is a huge difference. It's funny, I say huge difference, also sometimes fine line, it feels like, for parents, but
And
between
kids just being kids.
a social bump in the road. So that's the difference, is we have bullying on the one hand and we have a social bump in the road in the other hand. When they are social bumps in the road, okay, this is when all of this stuff is so important. We listen, we validate, we hear them, right? And then we say, one of my favorite sentences, which I know, Gretchen, it's one of yours we've talked about, is, and it's not mine, it comes from Lisa D'Amour, who is another amazing author. Are you venting, or do you want advice? The majority of the time when our kids are going through a social bump in the road, right? Someone has said something that's not nice to them. The girl that they were best friends with the day before now told her she's the worst friend ever. Somebody calls somebody a not nice name, right? Those are social bumps in the road that we just have to sit in the ick with our kiddos. I use the analogy in the book. Our kids walk up and they hand us their garbage. The majority of the time, they hand us their garbage, they walk away. That's all they needed. They just needed to vent. They just needed to let
Allison,
air out.
you get a lot of garbage sometimes.
Everyone does.
Teens,
right?
yeah,
That's what they do. And then all of a sudden they hand us
because
the
they want to
garbage,
give it to us.
and you're
They
kind of
walk
like,
away
and
now what do
want
I
the
do
garbage.
with it?
yeah, what do I do? So
What do
we
we
as
do?
parents have to learn what to do with their garbage. And that's when you have to decipher, is this bullying or is this a social bump in the road? If it's a social bump in the road, I promise you it's going to hurt us more than it is going to hurt them. They are in fertile ground for learning right now, right? And if we fix everything for them, they're not going to learn from it. Okay, we're not fixing it for them. We're just being there as their safety net,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
So maybe don't step in
you
as
don't
the
step in and
parent.
fix right away.
Yeah.
But you do have to. So that is social bump in the road. When it's bullying, when it's aggressive behavior that is happening over and over with a power differential.
Can you just go into the power differential part?
Right.
Because I
So
feel
power
like, what does that
differential.
mean?
Okay. So yeah. Well, let's start. So aggressive behavior would obviously be physical or emotional. Okay. Aggressive behavior with a power differential. Power differential can be all sorts of things. It can be age. It can be size. It can be a group of friends with one person by themselves. Right. Any possible power differential kind of falls under that. Okay. And then it happens over and over, right? It's something that's not stopping. Okay, this becomes tricky. I deal with this a lot as a school counselor, is when you have especially a teenager, the younger kids are more willing to let you kind of step in. The teenagers are mortified by it. It scares them to death. The research shows that when a child is actually being bullied, we do need to step in and help. But we have to do it really, really gently, especially if you have a child that's like, no, no, no. And if you have a child that says no, 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 you're going to have to make the decision whether or not you are going to step into it. And this is one of those situations. This is more a one-on-one conversation. So I would
This
hate
is
for anyone,
situational.
This is situational.
Yeah.
I would hate for anyone to take this. I'm sharing this in a general sense. So,
Absolutely.
because you really do want to walk a fine line when it does happen. So what I would say is, if you are noticing that your child is dealing with aggressive behavior that happens over and over with a power differential, you do need to go to the administration and at least, or the school counselor or the teacher, you need to at least start with, hey, this is happening and I need it to change. And I need this to be confidential for now.
Yeah.
Right? So you start with, you're saying to your child, we're not going to do anything about it right now, but we are going to talk to the adults in the
Like
room.
a heads up.
Right. When you go into those conversations with the adults, have your facts all written down, exactly what's happening. Ask them to keep it confidential, and ask them, what is your plan? Like, what is your plan to help my child? Right? You've got to have those. And if somebody is not listening, then you find somebody else that will. It's just at least awareness of what to do when it is bullying, but knowing that the majority of the time, there are social bumps in the road, that in order for your child to gain some confidence, they've got to walk through it a little bit with you by their side.
We had a lot of questions about, I've tried everything. How do I help my daughter see how amazing she is?
We want our children to feel good about themselves. And so
We all want our kids to just
we
be.
just want it all to be rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we want. And so it's really, really hard when our kiddos come to us and say something like, I'm ugly, nobody likes me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough one. And actually, it's fun. That is literally the first, in the introduction of the book, I start with when I was teaching way back when, a child who said to me, nobody in this class likes, I don't like me, and the kids don't like me. And so it's kind of this like, how can you have a kid who we love them so much and we give them all the nurturing they need and they still feel crummy about themselves? Okay, that idea of how do you walk up the mountain of life, right? Confidence comes from falling down, getting back up with people who are there to emotionally hold them during those tough times. So if a child is saying, I don't like myself, I'm ugly, what is our right away reaction?
No, you're not.
No, you're not. You're beautiful. You're amazing. Everyone loves you. What are you talking about? Okay.
We're not sitting in the
You're
edge.
not sitting in the edge. So child is saying one thing, we go the opposite, and all you get is anger, tears, or frustration, because it's like they're saying, you're not listening to me. I think I'm ugly right now. It doesn't matter what you say to me, right? Okay, so what do we do with that? This is probably one of the hardest things, whether it's a boy or a girl. So it's sitting in the ick. So when your daughter or your son say to you, nobody likes me, I'm ugly, I don't like the way I look, we have to sit there and mirror it back to them. I am so sorry, that's gotta be tough. I hear you saying that you don't like the way you look. I hear you saying that people don't like you, right? You've gotta take that moment. You're not agreeing, but you're saying, I hear you, I validate you.
Yeah.
And then you just gently move into, so where is that coming from? What's going on? Like you are literally just it's like you're sitting trying to understand the story. And all of those things in your head that are saying to you, you gotta tell them this, you gotta do this, and those need to it's a big time out, right? It's just sitting in the ick with them. But just in general, when you're talking about something that your child is struggling with, I always talk with kids about superpowers, right? So let's say, I'm gonna take the self-image piece out of it because that is so kind of individual and more sensitive to talk about.
Sure.
But if we're talking just in general, like I'm not good at something, I'm horrible,
Like
I'm no
sports,
good,
or-
I'm stupid, I'm all of that stuff. What I talk with the kids about is, okay, it might not be your superpower, but can you get better at it? It's that idea, and that's where confidence is built. I use the example in the book and I use this with the kids all the time. If I all of a sudden said, okay, I'm gonna quit my day job and I'm gonna start training for the Olympics and I'm gonna be the next Simone Biles, right? You would all think I had horns coming out of my head. It would be virtually impossible. But can I get better at gymnastics if I wanted to? Sure, right? So it's giving the kids the power of, you might not be the best at it, but can you get better at it? And then you pull out, listen, you can Google all the different stories of the Michael Jordans of the world who weren't the best at what they did, but they kept working. Doesn't mean that that's where you're gonna get, but can you get better? What your better looks like, I don't know. But it's empowering your child that, okay, you don't like the fact that you're not doing so well, what are you gonna do to make a difference? That's when you start hooking them into problem solving.
You have the
It's
ability
the growth,
to.
it's the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset.
We just have to be calm-ish. I feel like it's like
The reaction.
you
It's the
cannot.
it goes
It's
back
the
to
way
the
you
reaction.
react.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember, yes, the first part of it is the safety net. It's how you react. Absolutely. And if you react poorly, right? You scream, you yell, apologize, and try again. Beating yourself up is not going to do
We're human too. We're normal
anything.
too.
Yes,
Because what
apologizing
happens-
is okay, right?
Oh, and I
Someone
shows
once
that
told me
you're
never
also-
apologize, and I was like,
Oh,
that is
no.
not
No.
good
Because
advice.
what it
Well, I
does-
didn't take it.
think about it this way. If you apologize to your child,
Yeah.
they learn that mistakes are okay.
That's right.
Right. And I messed up. I'm gonna try
And
again.
modeling that so that they'll apologize.
Absolutely. And this is, I don't know, as we're kind of circling back on this, is your kids need you no matter what. No matter whether you make mistakes. They love you whether you make mistakes or not, right? That's
Right.
just kind of the innate part of a child. I've seen it 1,000 times. You are there when they need you.
Yeah.
And when they don't need you, you're still around if they need
Yeah.
you, right? You are there to set those boundaries. So anyway, you need to do both, the safety net and the compass. The compass is, and we didn't talk about that as much, we talked about it at the beginning, but you've got to give the love, the validation, the nurturing, but then you have to give them that compass. And that's where love, that's where security really comes from. I've got your back when you don't.
Yeah.
So for your unruly teenagers who are mad at you and angry at you, and this goes back to the idea they're going to not like
So
you at all,
annoying.
right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Like,
It's okay.
stop.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Stop.
Mom.
So stop, Mom. I hear it. I get you. I know you want me to stop, but you know what? Right now you're making choices that aren't very
Yeah, I'm
healthy.
gonna keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're making choices that aren't very healthy. So I know you don't like me right now.
And
but
it
if you're
goes
going,
back to
but if you're going to
this.
choose, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's
How we react.
it's how we react, and then what we do moving forward. How we help them problem solve. How we help them internalize how to be respectful, responsible, healthy, and safe. It's all in here.
So here, parenting is hard, and
And
we're
the-
not crazy.
No.
We don't need a diagnosis.
You don't need a diagnosis. You
We
just
just
some
need
parenting
to-
help.
And we are
Do
the
you want
guide to all things good.
And this is
Here you go.
this
Yep.
is
Amazon.
something that you absolutely need.
Yeah.